Hello and welcome back to ESBR Boxing. I'm Niall and I'm delighted to be joined tonight by Owen, and we'll be looking ahead to the main event of, I have to say, what is a brilliant card on Saturday, December 23rd, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. It's the day of reckoning, and we'll be previewing Anthony Joshua against the dangerous enough Swede Otto Wallin. And yeah, we'll be breaking down that fight, looking to see where it might be won or lost, and what we think about men. So first of all, Owen, how are you? Hope you're well. And yeah, I'm gonna start with a fairly controversial one here, I think. And I'm gonna say, Joshua, he's lost now a couple of times, well, three times, and the Ruiz loss and then a couple to Usyk. But there's been a lot of questions about his recent performances against Franklin and Helenia. So I'm gonna ask you, what do you think that Anthony Joshua has seen his better days? Is he past his best?
I don't want to say too much because it might reveal my sort of a prediction, but at the elite level, I do. Um, I think although I've seen training videos of him with Ben Davidson, and it looks like they're just working on pure power shots. I think he's fighting a tricky southpaw who's going to be boxing and moving. So those shots are going to be few and far between and hard to find on the night, especially. But in general, if he went in with Wilder tomorrow, who would I back? Wilder. If he went in with Usyk again, Usyk. If he went in with Fury, I'm backing Fury. And then even like, do you know what? Even if he goes in with Zhang, I think I'm putting the house on Zhang. So at the top of the top and the elite level, I think Joshua is finished. I think I've got a bit of a knack on these videos for calling retirement for fighters, but I think for Joshua, however much money he wants to make is still there to be made. So I don't think it would make sense for him to call it a day because there's still good fights, the likes of Hrgovic, and even against someone like Zhang is a good test to see has he still got that fire in his belly? Where is he still at? Because I don't think we'll ever see Wilder, Joshua, because there already looks to be stumbling blocks. So yeah, I think at the elite level, I think he's finished.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. It's well put, but I definitely have to agree. Like, there's no shame in the Usyk defeats. He's a generational talent. But I've kind of mentioned on previous videos about Joshua. I don't know whether it's a lack of hunger anymore or a crisis of confidence he's having since that'll date back to the Ruiz loss. I don't know, but he's more conservative now. He's adopted a more kind of safe boxing approach. Whether he thinks that's him now, I don't know, but I definitely have to agree with you at world level. I don't think he's going to get back to the mountaintop there, to be honest. But yeah, moving on, I suppose you mentioned there before we get into what the dangers that Otto Wallin poses. Joshua, he's under a new trainer again for this one. Ben Davison. There was a lot of kind of interesting interesting observers there when that partnership was announced. But he's been through a few trainers now since he split
Mhm.
with Rob McCracken. Robert Garcia, Derek James, and now Ben Davison. Just wondering, what do you think of that partnership, and the kind of the positives that it might bring, or even the negatives with them two pairing up?
I think for me, I'm still firmly in the camp of I don't think Joshua should have ever got rid of Rob McCracken personally. Maybe controversial, maybe not, but for me, it's a no-go. You should have stayed with him. But I think that if I look into positives of it, you know, Lee Wood, he's been working with Lee Wood since 2021, and we've seen recent knockouts from Lee Wood, where he's almost starching people. Obviously, I know he got Fury back into shape. He's works with Isaac Lowe, sort of average fighter. Pat McCormack, decent. I know he's working with Josh Taylor again. Josh Taylor's a difficult one to sort of judge because I thought he was finished at the weight when he fought Catterall and then he fought Teo, and it was probably one fight too far. So it's hard to judge with Taylor, but I think it's harsh to say when you see the fitness coach comments. Probably a bit too far, but as a tactician, do I think Ben Davidson is better than any of AJ's previous coaches? No. Could he get the fire back in his belly to look for big knockouts? I mean, Lee Wood is the only example I can really give. So you have to say yes on that front. But personally, I wasn't a big fan of the move. That may change if we see the old AJ or even a new AJ come December 23rd. But personally, no, not for me, not Ben Davidson. Nothing against him, but just not for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair to be honest. I again not to go too hard into Anthony Joshua here. I think the problems that Anthony Joshua are having lately is kind of goes beyond, the trainer. There's more deep rooted problems than the trainer, and I agree with you again. I think Rob McCracken was the man for him. That split was just baffled me to be honest. I don't know why they. Well, we'll never know what went on behind closed doors, but I think, yeah, Rob McCracken was the man. Even though I rate Davison, he takes a lot of stick, but he's still young, still learning, and it'll be interesting, especially if this fight is only kind of one fight. There's talk of it only being the one fight, and he'll be back with Derek James again after this. So who knows how Joshua will look with Davison. If he puts on a good performance, it could turn into a permanent affair. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So yeah, just I suppose next will be on to the opponent himself. Otto Wallin. He's quite an interesting fighter because he kind of shot the fame with that one fight that we all know against Fury. Where a lot of people said he should have beat him. He had his face a real mess. That cut was horrendous, and against a lot of other fighters, I think it's fair to say he should have been stopped. And he's been on quite a good run since, and he's confident. He seems more than capable. So how do you rate Otto Wallin as an opponent for AJ at this stage of his career, and what kind of threats do you see him posing on the 23rd of December to Joshua?
I mean, I'm firmly in the camp of Fury done amazingly well to even fight with that cut. That's probably the worst cut I've ever seen. It was mental. And if it's anyone other than Tyson Fury, is that fight getting stopped? I'd be 98, probably even 99% sure it would. So Otto Berlin should have been a heavyweight world champion. Um, he hasn't really dwelt on it. I don't think. He's got some decent wins since. Obviously, he showed he hasn't really got any power. Going the distance with Dominic Brazil and Kamil Sokolovsky. And that weren't ideal. I think you'd be wanting to stop fighters like that. But I personally have to say that the Gassiev fight, a lot of people backed Gassiev, and I was in two minds over it. And then I watched it and I thought Berlin boxed a very good fight. I thought Split was slightly harsh. So I think he poses a big threat to Joshua. Southpaws are never easy to fight at any level of boxing. And then when you're at Joshua's stage of the career where he suffered huge, huge defeats, do you really want to be going in with a tricky southpaw? Ideally not, but I don't really think he's got much choice. If he wants to be boxing at the top level, he's realistically he's got to be beating and dispatching of people like Otto Berlin, AJ has. But I think he poses a lot of threats if he can get on his bike, get in and get out, box and move. Um, it causes problems for AJ, especially if Ben Davidson. It could all be a smokescreen, and AJ could try and box with him. But if it's from the footage we've seen where AJ is coming just looking to get the big stoppage, then I don't see why Ivor Lynn can't outpoint him with fairly wide margins. Um, I think, like you say, if he's quick, he's big, all the cliches, to be honest, but they'll work for him in his favor. So yeah, I think he poses major threats to AJ.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think it's a very kind of tricky fight. I used the phrase in the record the betting show the other day and used the phrase banana skin. I think it's a real banana skin for Joshua. There's just too many factors to consider. He's, he's finished at the top level now, AJ. I think we both agreed that he's more conservative now. Like if this was Joshua of his prime, I'd fancy him to kind of walk Otto Wallin down and stop him. the ruthless, aggressive AJ putting his counters together well and confidence, confidence wise. I think in his prime he stops Wallin, but I think it's tricky now with him being a southpaw, good boxer. So yeah, I do think it's a real tricky one, for AJ this. But I suppose with all that considered, preview, we're here to preview and ultimately give our predictions about what's going to happen. So I'll leave the floor to you. A final prediction: does AJ beat Otto Wallin and set up the Deontay Wilder fight in 2024?
I'm going to keep this short, sharp, and sweet. Otto Wallin outpoints AJ by 4 or 5 rounds. I think AJ will hurt him, but I think he just hasn't got that fire in his belly to jump all over him how he used to, where he's not bothered about what comes back. So yeah, Otto Wallin, comfortable points decision.
You know what? It might be controversial, but it wouldn't surprise me. With this conservative AJ, I'm gonna go myself for AJ points, but a very underwhelming points win. Maybe drops Wallen on the way to winning a points victory, but I don't think he looks good doing it. Wallen's just too tricky. So yeah, that was our prediction and preview for Anthony Joshua Otto Wallen on December 23rd in Riyadh. So hope Owen, thanks a lot for joining me, and don't forget to drop us a like, subscribe, all that stuff. We have great content, videos, reviews, previews, interviews, and especially over the next few weeks, some great boxing coming up. So, yeah, take care on and speak to you next time.